Welcome back. This is Jeremiah. We have an August offering where we will get back into the book of Romans. We are going to, I have number 31 down here for myself. We have quite a few items. This is basically a look at Romans through terminology or vocabulary, and maybe a few phrases and so forth. So, and I'm very happy with this approach, okay? I think that this is going to be something that a lot of people will enjoy and you can learn, and this is what we're here for. We're going to listen to Romans chapter 5 as we listen to the chapters themselves. Now, am I going verbatim? Are we really attacking Paul? No, we're not. We're not really delving into Paul specifically. Next year I have plans to put all of the teachings from Romans chapter 2 all the way to maybe 12 and so forth, and put some kind of order and make a matrix and some sort of schemata or template for all of these ideas, okay? Paul usually goes back and forth from grace to law, and he does it so much that it could be a little confusing. What I did earlier in my first Romans lesson that I have online here, I tackled a lot of his ideas or the ideas about law and grace, and I did a pretty thorough job on looking into a lot of deep issues that Paul reveals, okay? He is perhaps the deepest part of the Bible, actually. Now, the master, we just looked at Matthew 24, and I read that to you because that deals with prophecy in general that is after the rapture. Okay? That's a Hebrew prophecy. And that goes for Luke's reference too. Both of them make a chapter or so contribution to prophecy, and that is generally related to after the rapture. Now, in order for me to complete my prophecy lesson, I just finished Genesis. I won't finish prophecy until the end of this year. I'm going to put another offering of videos under number 16 in this playlist that you can click here. I'm going to put a very comprehensive look at the entire span of prophecy. Obviously, it's going to be cursory, or I'm not going to get into too many details. However, I will give you a lot of the basics, and I'm very happy with that lesson. I'm very happy to engage and to take my time and to delve into the sweet honey of the word of prophecy. Most of the prophecy that's really exciting is in Isaiah pertaining to the coming of Jesus Christ. A lot of this is what we call negativity in America and so forth. We don't really want to get into too much of that. I don't. We have to address it. But as far as getting into a lot of details, there are 100 or so titles for the beast. There are 2 beasts, and really going into detail into the beast, I'll never do that in this ministry. I will mention a few items, and I might even go through the 100 plus titles, or what, I don't know how many. I forgot how many titles there are for the beast. Lawless one and all these titles. I will talk about them, but only in snap, quick stuff. Okay? This is Jeremiah with New Covenant. We greet you in the only name given amongst men, the only name given to mankind. One name. We just talked about the name. That was 16 on my list here for Romans, okay? We're going to 31 now, and I'm just mentioning the numbers for my own basic edification, because we're just going through terms and we're familiarizing ourselves with the terms that Paul uses, and so that when we read this Bible, especially Romans, we know exactly what we're talking about. And this is a wonderful way of getting to Paul. Paul could be a little difficult, right? And so, what's the best thing to do? When something gets a little difficult, break it down. Don't try to tackle, a heavy calculus problem until you've gone through the steps. There are different factors in order to allow a rocket to take off. So you need to take into account the different factors, and there are quite a few mathematical properties involved in a rocket being taking off. It's not as though it's difficult to understand. It's just that there's a lot of factors that you have to keep track of in terms of complicated things. That's what makes complicated things complicated. You need to take your time, and you have to look at the components. When I went to college, getting into algebra, I had two tough algebra teachers, and they admitted that they were tough or something, which I didn't understand. I don't understand why you just don't want to teach the class and do what you're supposed to do. And I thought that the dean should have been involved. Because you're not here to make things more difficult than they're supposed to be. And when you declare that you're going to make them more difficult than they're supposed to be, you're declaring error. You're telling us that you're doing the wrong thing. Because if you're taking math, you're not a math major. That's the point. And when you have Bible study, you need to break things down, and there's no need to try to be pretentious or to have some sort of show that you're smart or something, or that's one reason why I'm going through Romans now, moreover, because we need to go ahead and just take care of the basics. That's it. Just take care of the basics, learn what the terms mean. Now next year, about this time, I have plans in the summer. If the plans go as planned, as scheduled, I'm going to tackle Romans from chapters 2. I just mentioned that, to 10 and 12. And I'm going to tackle those chapters, and I'm going to write down everything and put everything in order pertaining to law and grace. Okay? So that's basically all Paul is doing. He's talking about the law and grace, and how does it all mix? Okay? And I'm going to tackle that next year. I will finish Babylon by then. As I give a quick look at higher education, I hope to have that done before next summer. Okay? That's 2024. The month of August, etc. Okay? That's all. Babylon might take, I might give part 1 of Babylon and part 2. Because I don't want that many videos. So I have to really find what I want to, I have to narrow things down. That's difficult. Because there's a lot of subject matter material for Babylon, or what I call Babylonian ideologies. I already gave one lesson on the psychology of Babylon. That's available. In other words, what do they teach in college about psychology that is, it's Bozo the Clown. It's no good. And I already started on that. I don't use very many terms. I just give you an introduction as to some of the basics of psychology in Western civilization, and some, I guess in some Eastern civilizations where they have collegiate and even some high school presentations of nonsense. And I'm going to show you why it's nonsense. Okay, that was the point of psychology. I have some get down to cases in psychology coming up. Okay, but I do have part 1 basically done, which was an introduction to basic psychology in Babylon, because I have a lot of subjects that I'm going to attack in Babylon or in higher education, okay? Psychology will be one of the 4 or 5 that I tackle, okay? which I call a philosophy. It doesn't mean that everything in psychology is unscientific. It's just that they declare it as science, and it ain't, to put it bluntly. Okay? A lot of lies, a lot of demonic mess in there. And I point that out. And it's also a good warning out to some of you young people out there who are considering going to college and so forth. You might want to just stay away from college. Yeah. You might want to just go to a seminary, especially you men out there. So that's my perspective. Now, obviously, some people can handle college. They can handle 80% of the students now are basically in most colleges, the big universities, they are attacking us, our Bible and our Christian values. They're essentially saying we're worthless in almost every facet of education, higher education, and even lower education. So the point is that, you have to be prepared. That's the point. And we're going to do what we can to help and ensure that everyone who's interested in education, they stick to their Bible basically, and when you get outside of the realms of the Bible, that you do it wisely. Intrepid, what's the word? You're going to do it with steps that are guarded. Or some people who started out in Christian homes, they're going to find themselves confronting the master and disagreeing with reality. Because that's essentially what Babylon does. As I mentioned, Babylon ideologies right now, which is going to be probably under 30 playlists, okay? And I'm happy to do this. It's not going to take that much time, and I will skim quite a few of their books. And since I already know quite a bit about a lot of their lives already, being an individual who has had a few years of higher education. Okay, you ready to go? Let's get into Romans. As I just wanted to mention, you'll find out, for those of you interested, as to how I tackle this. Essentially, it is a philosophy. It's friendly information for them. Information that you consider friendly, that's what the word philosophy means, essentially. And if you attach yourself to ideas, that's what the word means. If you attach yourself to ideas that are wrong or an error or are dangerous because of that, especially when you want to do anything to confront and to show any kind of hatred or dislike for God the Father, Creator of the Lord Jesus Christ, then that's when it really becomes a big problem. One of the best examples of that is in higher education and Babylon ideologies. Out of all their schools of thought is this Darwinism, that what you're looking at, things that are beauty, a baby, the world, the rainbow, nobody made it, and God didn't make it, and He didn't design it, and it just happened. And you just took the artist's work and you just dissed it, as they say here in America. You took somebody's artwork and you said that they didn't do it. And as an artist, I find that absolutely sickening. And what's hypocritical about this in higher education, of course, is the individuals who say that God can't take credit for His work are the same people that said that the Renaissance was a period where people did what they were supposed to do, which was recognize the artwork of the artist and the artist himself. In other words, humans make things, but God can't make things, and humans can make things and be recognized, but the things that God made, which are everything, he can't find any glory in what He does. This is absolutely sickening for a Protestant child like me. And I had to sit through years of classrooms off and on where they gave me this sick stuff right in my face. And then when I protested, they looked at me like something was wrong with me. And I was like sitting in the classroom like, no, 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 listen, you know, you know quite a few four-syllable words and so on, but most of what you're saying is nonsense. Well, how dare you say that in my classroom? Why are you in the classroom if this is nonsense? And you get all of these kinds of remarks. But the bottom line is that wherever I go, I stand up for the truth. Okay, and as far as being here, I go where I want to go. You don't tell me where to go. You know, you're telling me that this is the devil's home or the gates of hell, this classroom. Well, listen, I can go into the gates of hell because the Lord is with me. Don't tell me where I can't go. Fools rush in where angels fear to tread. Well, there's no such thing as a place where angels fear to tread. Number one, there's no such thing. It's nonsense. If the Lord sends an angel, and I'm an evangelist, if I enter wherever I go, if the Lord wants me to be in charge, I'll be in charge. End of story. Now the Lord obviously lets the dark world knock us around quite a bit, but it doesn't mean that if it's time to go do something and the Lord wants you to do it, that anybody's going to get in your way. That's the point. It ain't going to happen. And as a Christian man, I rejoice in all of this. I rejoice in having power over scorpions and demons and so forth, in order to bind up the chains of the brokenhearted and go into realms that darkness owns and just go and take their property. That's essentially what Christianity is. The entire Adam's family was given to the devil. In the first book in this Bible, then the master comes down 4,000 years later, and he gives the people who are chained up, he gives them a way out. And I'm one of the people that is being used to go into the dark territory and take the plunder of the dark people. My force is stronger than their force. Therefore, when I go into their territory, if the Lord is with me on the project will go through. And that's generally related to the Spirit of the Lord is upon me to bind up the brokenhearted and to bring the gospel to the poor and to set at liberty those who are in chains. Okay, if it's time to do that, all the darkness in the world means squat. They can congregate, they can put their powers together, and we can just laugh at them. You're wasting your time. You know, the dark team is over there. Well, if it's time to go step on them, they're gonna get stepped on. That's the point here. But we Bible teachers who are sound doctrine Bible teachers, we teach that you will experience that probably in your life as a Christian. However, you'll also experience where the Lord will allow them to abuse you and persecute you. So it's a mixed bag. It's common sense. Okay? But if there's a hurting person across the street and the Lord wants to bring them comfort, we just used the word comfort right here on my list, number 20. If the Lord wants to bring them comfort, that's why the Holy Spirit is called the Comforter. If it's time for them to be comforted and they're surrounded by devils, and we're going to go get them, the devils are wasting their time stopping us. They're not going to stop us. Because one of the main goals of Christianity in Luke 4:4 is the Lord has the energy from Father to go bind up and heal the brokenhearted. That's one of the main goals of Christianity. Okay, that's it. That's what the force is for. bring salvation, the gospel, the good news, and to bind up the brokenhearted and set at liberty those who are psychologically captive. To bring a zombie intelligence. That's what we do. And it is the most magnificent thing a human can do. I'm not here to bring you happiness for 5 minutes as a Christian evangelist. I'm not here to bring you 5 minutes of joy. We're not circus entertainers. The evangelist like me brings you permanent satisfaction. That's why agape is a big deal here in this ministry, because that's the goal here. The goal here is not a TV guy who tells you you get more money and you're healthy next week forever or something. We're here to bring permanent satisfaction of the soul and rest from the Lord of the Sabbath to you. There therefore now remains a Sabbatism for the people of God. That's an eternal rest. You keep the Sabbath now every day. You don't rehearse the Sabbath anymore. You are the Sabbath. That's how you keep the Sabbath, because you are the Sabbath. They have a Seventh-day Adventist church over here around the corner. It's a bunch of people who are mentally retarded. It doesn't mean they can't be saved. It's just that it's sad to see that they don't understand simple 4th to 8th grade grammar in the King James Bible. The Master said the Sabbath is for man, not man for the Sabbath. Okay, take my yoke upon you, and you shall find Sabbath for your soul. There therefore now remaineth a permanent servitude, Sabbatism. Sabbatism comes from rest. Rest comes from servitude. Put my yoke upon you. Put my supervision on top of you, and you'll find rest for your soul, and that rest never leaves. That's what the Bible says, and I swore they would not enter into my rest. You can't enter into the Lord's peace and rest until you get your act together and you submit yourself unto the Lord, and every word that proceedeth from the mouth of the Lord, every commandment you put on your heart. Once you do that, we have a winner on our hands. Until you do that, we might have a loser. That's the point. And a loser is someone who does not enter into his rest. The whole goal here is to enter into the gates of heaven, which is rest. Okay? That's the point. Look, Paul uses the word Sabbatism. That means an eternal state. Every day is Sabbath, the Sabbath day now. That's what it is. Now, if you decide to put Saturday or Friday aside, a special day for the Lord, Paul says there's nothing wrong with that. But Paul said every day is a Sabbath day for him. Who should you copy? Paul or somebody else? Who's the leader here? That becomes another issue. I've talked with Seventh-day Adventist people. They have a whole city in California, Loma Linda. It's the whole city is Seventh-day Adventist. I used to frequent that city. I would talk to people. They go, and I go, who's in charge around here? Huh? Ellen G. White or Paul the Apostle? Paul said every day is a Sabbath day. Why don't you say that? Who are you, and what kind of a mental problem are you experiencing when it comes to simple grammar, sir? That's my point. Ellen G. White is a woman. You're not supposed to listen to women teach. That's clear for, I don't know, 8th grade grammar. Okay, now you're telling me you're listening to a woman, blah, 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 and you don't like Paul, who wrote most of the New Testament. He's obviously authority. He said he has commandments from the Lord personally. And now you tell me you don't like what he says, and you like what the woman said or something. And what we have here is annoying rebellion is what it basically comes down to. Because you can't tell me you didn't read where Paul said that there therefore exists forever an eternal rest. You didn't read that, sir? Okay, let's go through the basics then, sir. Maybe you didn't read the obvious 7th grade Sunday school lesson. Okay, that's the point. Well, I'm not putting anybody down. I'm just asking a legitimate question, that's all. You want a C grade in the class, Mr. Seventh-day Adventist, whoever you are. Do you want a passing grade, yes or no? And I'm not the one who ascertains whether you pass the class. The Lord has given us the very simple format as to who's passing the class and who's not passing the class. Want me to tell you you're passing the class and you're not passing the class? Would you prefer that? Let's get to Paul Germain here, because he's going to mention some of these issues in these letters we're going to get into right now, where people are saying, oh no, Paul, you should have went this today, and everybody used to go on Sunday or Saturday, and Peter, we just looked at Peter, I'm going to get to Peter here pretty soon, in the book of Acts, where the Bible says that Peter and everybody met on the first day of the week. That's quite clear that they met and had church on the first day of the week. I don't know how you missed that. I don't understand it. The Bible is not 15 million pages. I don't know why you don't get the simple stuff that's right there in your face. You know what? There's no excuse for it. They met on the first day of the week. Now you're telling me that you can't meet on the first day of the week when it's clear that Peter met on the first day of the week. Okay, that's very simple. Okay, now you're telling me no, you have to meet on the last day of the week. And all this confusion. I've had some conversations with some Seventh-day Adventists and so forth. I have some lessons on that available for you now. I have to double check that they're on both channels, but the point is that they're there. I asked one of these gentlemen, I asked him, I said, do you know that it's clear that you don't listen essentially to women teachers? That's like in stone. I think second graders who are paying attention in Sunday school can get this, most of them. Why are you, at however old age you are, 30, why don't you get that? A lot of issues. I don't talk about a lot of negativity that much anymore in this ministry. For almost 2 years now, going on 2 years, I have not discussed a lot of people who just don't get it. We talk about it periodically, but I don't hammer home Seventh-day Adventism, Muslimism, or whatever. I don't do that. Now, Seventh-day Adventists are possibly saved people. They're probably the most saved, what you might call a cult, C-U-L-T. Okay? There are some Catholics who can be saved and so forth. As far as the witnesses and the Mormons, they're 99% toast. But let's let that go as I get into heresies and twister donut people who just can't go along with the program. They've got to twist something. They've got to add something. They've got to subtract something. They've got to twist something. There are a lot of people like that, and they're going to pay for it. John says in the book of Revelation, don't touch the Bible. Leave it alone. And yet you have Russell, Rutherford, Smith, even Miss White. You can't eat pork. You got to do this, and you better go to church on Saturday, and all of this stuff. And the end of the world is gonna. All Christians are gonna go through the tribulation period. I think the Seventh-day Adventists teach that too, or something. Listen, all this confusion, and it's so sad in a country where there are libraries and people should know their grammar. Why does this exist? It's horrible. Because in a country where there's libraries and dictionaries, the intellectual level should be much higher than it is. That's the point. At least I would think so. Let's get to Romans, Jermaine, as I had to get into a little negativity as to the things that are going on as far as the twister donuts out there. We just can't take the red letter King James, William Penn, Pilgrim Bible and roll. They've got to grab it. They've got to twist it. You know, they've got to undermine. And it's just horrible. Let's get back to positive things, because I'm not going to get into too much negative things. I have a 2-year moratorium, a sabbatical, if I pardon the pun there, whatever. But I have a 2-year rest from a lot of negativity. Okay, we're not going to get into too much for about 2 years in this ministry, because we've had enough. We've had enough of getting talking about the people who are what we might call knuckleheads, and so we don't have a lot of time for them anymore. It's time for us to focus on beauty, where we're going, Paul's doctrine right now, and the Lord's red letters. That's what we're focusing on, pretty much the good times. Okay. Learning vocabulary is a big issue for this year and a little bit of last year. And I'm going to get off of vocabulary pretty soon. You know, my next run through Romans is going to be. Well, let's go to another video. Maranatha. I want to cut this off.